All right, 12 ways you should be using your birth ball for pelvic floor health in pregnancy and postpartum. Let's get right into it with some active movements that really engage your pelvic floor. First up, squats with the ball.
So I'm sure you've done a squat before, but here's how you do it in pregnancy with a birth ball. So with your feet really wide, wider than your hips, bring your hands to the top of your ball for support. Gently hug your navel in toward your belly, like you're giving your baby a really gentle hug in. And then on an exhale, go ahead and lower down. Keep that spine nice and long. Lower on an exhale and inhale to rise up. So as you exhale, lower down and press through the ground. Inhale on a big rise up. So this is great for your pelvic floor. You'll learn later in this video how important it is to sync your breath with your body's movements to engage and make your pelvic floor as healthy as it can be. Next up, bridges on the ball. Now, sit on the floor and bring your knees as wide as they need to be to accommodate the size of your belly. Now, I like to bring the ball really close to me and kind of like lift my hips a bit, give the ball a little bit of my weight just to test it, make sure I feel really secure and sturdy. So that's what I'm kind of doing here. All right, and then bring your hands to your hips, and when you're ready, on an exhale, lift those hips up towards the sky, squeeze your glutes. Inhale as you lower back down. Exhale to lift up. So as you exhale, you're pressing down through your heels, lifting those hips up towards the sky, and then inhale to gently release down. So make sure you're moving nice and slow here. You want to trust the ball with your weight. So again, that's why I like to just emphasize slow, mindful movement. And your breath is so important. Your pelvic floor diaphragm works in conjunction with your respiratory diaphragm, which I'll explain a little bit later in the video. But that's why breathing, even though it seems so simple, really is key to getting effective pelvic floor work. So next up is a modified cat-cow. So stretch your hips back out behind you with your hands rested on the ball and allow your spine to extend. On an inhale, round through the spine as you roll up and pull the ball back in toward your body. Just a note that we're not arching the back here into cow shape like you might do if you are not pregnant, because your abdominal muscles are already stretching so much due to the growth of your belly that if we do a deep back arch, we're gonna extend that stretching even more and cause some diastasis recti. All right, so lunges with the birth ball. Now come down to your knees very gently with the ball in front of you and bring your knee out to a 45-degree angle. So your knee is not pointing forward and it's not pointing all the way out to the side, but on that 45-degree angle. This helps to open up your pelvis, which, by the way, this is fabulous at the end of the third trimester when you're trying to get baby engaged, but that's another note for another video, another time. So as you exhale, go ahead and lower down into this lunge. Inhale to rise up. Use that ball for stability here and to help you keep your spine nice and upright and strong. Again, it's always good practice to just hug your navel in toward your baby, in toward your belly. Pretend like you're giving your baby like a gentle little hug in, and that helps to support your spine. Now, you'll probably notice in pregnancy that you feel a little extra bendy, and that's thankful to that relaxin hormone. So I do want to just kind of caution you to not overstretch in pregnancy because your body is extra open. Your soft tissues have relaxin hormone running through them, which helps them to open, but we don't want to cause any overstretching injuries. Now, next is one of my favorite stretches ever. It's wide leg forward fold. So with your feet really wide, keep your feet parallel to each other. So all 10 toes are pointing forward, not out to the corners of the room, but forward. That keeps your hips squared off. So anyway, bend from your hip crease here, and you'll have a nice long line from your tailbone out through the crown of your head. With your hands rested on that ball for support, you can just kind of hang out here. And when you're ready, please rise up very slowly and mindfully, because all of that extra blood flow in pregnancy does promote some lightheadedness. Before we move on, I want to tell you how to sit on the ball. And I know you're thinking, that seems super obvious. Why bother? But there are some really important alignment points that you should understand to get the maximum out of your birth ball, because honestly, if you don't sit on the birth ball properly, you're probably going to do more disservice to your body than actual help. So let's just get into it. When you go ahead and sit on the ball, you want to be sitting upright, nice and tall. And for the most stable, supportive shape, make sure your feet are wider than your hips so that your 2 feet and your hips form this triangle shape, or sort of like a tripod triangle shape of support to keep you balanced and safe. And when you sit on the ball, you want to make sure that your hip crease is at or above, like at or higher than the tops of your knees. Now, the next really important point is to sit upright and tall. So make sure you're not slouching on your ball. And again, if the ball is too low, if your hips are lower than your knees, this is what's going to happen. But when your ball is properly inflated and the right size, sit up nice and tall on your sits bones, those bony bits at the bottom of your pelvis that you can feel if you move a little flesh around. You want to sit up nice and tall so that your pelvis is in a neutral orientation. So when you are sitting on the ball, your body organically starts this side to side rocking motion. And so just imagine that you're swaying your baby to sleep. Bring your mind's focus to all the places that your body is making contact with the ball, to help to start to hone that mind-body awareness, which will be so important as you get closer to your birthing day and as a labor support tool. Now make your feet really wider than your hips. Root that left foot and strong left leg down. Feel it supporting you. And reach your right arm up towards the sky, up and over toward the left. Think about staying long in both sides of your rib cage as you reach that arm up. And when you're ready, go ahead and release that hand down. Shift your weight into the right leg this time. Reach the left arm up and over towards the right. So again, long in both sides of the rib cage here. Keep the breath flowing, big inhales and exhales. This is a great way to find a little bit of extra space in those intercostal muscles to breathe as you get later into your pregnancy and your belly gets bigger and it feels like there's just no room for your lungs. This will help you unlock a little bit more space for easier breath.
So this next section is all about mindful movement for pelvic floor awareness. And let me tell you why that is so important. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles that supports your pelvic organs. You have a superficial layer and a deep layer of these muscles, and they become very important during pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. Probably you'll hear more about your pelvic floor in these next couple of years of your life than you ever will again. Your pelvic floor ideally should be a balance of strong and tensile, or strong and flexible. Now, we all come at birth with our pelvic floors in varying degrees of strong and flexible. If you have a history of dance, gymnastics, CrossFit, horseback riding, there's a good chance that your pelvic floor may be hypertonic or overly strong and tight. So you'd want to create a little more time and intention, stretching, releasing, and creating a mind-body connection. If you have a history of prolapse or incontinence, or you've had prior vaginal births, then it's possible that your pelvic floor may need to be toned or strengthened to come back into a healthier balance of those two qualities. So we do all of these exercises because these exercises are all designed to create a balance of strength and flexibility. When practicing these exercises, it's equally as important that you practice them to the rhythm of your own breath. So yes, that will teach you to tune into your body and hone your mind-body awareness, which is a really important skill that you can utilize during birth. But even more important to understand is that your pelvic floor muscles form a diaphragm that work in conjunction with your respiratory diaphragm. So the functioning of your breath and the functioning of your pelvic floor are inextricably linked. So your breath is actually quite important when it comes to any sort of pelvic floor work.
All right, so this next one, figure eights. Sit on the ball and move your hips in a figure eight motion, which is, I think, so much harder to do than it sounds like. So this is really excellent for mobilizing your pelvic floor. And it can be kind of a challenging and unusual movement, so it really requires a bit more focus, but therefore is really great for strengthening that mind-body connection. Next up, we'll do some pelvic tilts. So while you're sitting on the ball, bring your hands to your hip points, your iliac crest. You can palpate them or feel around for those bony bits at the side of your hips. They feel like a big arc. And then bring your thumb to the top of those so that your thumb is pointing up towards the sky when you're sitting upright. Gently tilt your pelvis back and you'll notice your thumbs kind of point backwards, and then inhale, the thumbs point up, and as you exhale, tilt the pelvis forward. You'll see the hips and the thumb point forward. So it's a really small movement when you're articulating just the pelvis. Resist the urge to let this come from your thoracic spine or sort of like your midsection, and really want to centralize this into the pelvis. This anterior to posterior tilting strengthens your lower back and your pelvic floor. So this is a really good articulation to continue to practice, and reminder to practice with your breath. And for the last seated exercise, we have seated circles. Pretty straightforward. You're gonna make nice, big, juicy circles with your hips on the ball in one direction, and then repeat, switch to the other direction whenever you are ready. Really think about moving slowly and articulating all the way through here, the range of motion. All right, next up is one of my favorites, puppy pose. So gently make your way down to the ground, down to your knees and your shins. Kneel on the floor and rest your chest against the ball. You can give the ball a big hug in with your arms, resting one of your ears on the ball just to kind of find a comfortable posture for your neck and your chest. When I was in the 3rd trimester with my daughter, I remember this being such a wonderful low back release because your belly can just kind of hang out in space here. So stay in this pose as long as you like, but do take a second to switch over to the other ear just so you have a balanced experience on your neck and your chest here. We don't want to build up any tension in the neck or chest for the sake of stretching elsewhere in the body. So we always want to keep things balanced. For a final resting position after your practice or for any time you just need to rest your pregnant body and mind, there's child's pose. And here's how I love to do child's pose with the birth ball. So bring your knees very wide and your feet, your big toes towards each other. Sink your hips back towards the ball. So you've got plenty of room for your belly here in between your legs. You can do this stretch daily to stretch your pelvic floor and to bring a sense of calm. If you're feeling stressed or anxious,
it will really reset your day. It resets your nervous system. It helps you to shift from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system state, which helps to kick in all of those relaxation processes in your body. So you can do these exercises in any order you like, and you can do them every day if you'd like to, but always finish with something calming like puppy pose or child's pose. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. That really lets other people find my channel as well. And I will see you in my next video.